Welcome, everyone. It's with an open heart and really a great sense of fulfillment that I offer you this recent interview that I did with Acharya Shunya. Acharya is a master of the Vedic sciences. She is also a master of Ayurvedic medicine. She's the author of 3 acclaimed books and the lineage holder for a 2,000-year-old tradition of Vedic wisdom from northern India. She is, of course, also a teacher, and the word Acharya actually means teacher. I met her at the Omega Institute where she was giving her phenomenal course entitled Roar Like a Goddess. At that time, I asked Acharya if she would help me with one issue I'd been struggling with for decades. As I worked with thousands of clients, I noticed consistently there would be several people popping up who had excessive fear and excessive worry. So many women with osteoporosis came to me that were fearful and worried. I tended to joke around with them that they and I belonged to a tribe of thin and worried women that then had osteoporosis. I came to see osteoporosis as a disorder of thin and worried women. Of course, osteoporosis is much more than that, but I really needed help figuring out the link between fear, worry, and osteoporosis. So I asked her to give me the Ayurvedic perspective on this. In this interview, you're going to see the insights we gain from Ayurveda on how it is that the same physiological and mental imbalances that tend to contribute to osteoporosis also contribute to excessive worry, and then excessive worry makes the osteoporosis worse. So it's a very interesting situation, an interesting dynamic. Most importantly, what she shows us are the keys that Ayurvedic medicine and the Vedic principles the keys that science, those sciences can give us for getting back into balance, creating relaxation and ease of the mind, and creating better bone strength. So enjoy the interview. It's very wisdom-packed. Feel free to watch it several times. And you might actually get interested in looking into Ayurvedic medicine and how that ancient medicine, which is becoming newly popular today, can help you live a happier, healthier life with stronger bones and a greater sense of well-being. Thank you very much for watching the interview. I'll be interested in knowing your response. Welcome, everyone. Dr. Susan here, and I want to mention there is an ancient saying that when nature sees a great need, nature creates a great leader, a great teacher. Today it's my privilege to have one of the great teachers of our time, Acharya Shunya, with us here today, and she has graciously offered to share some of her knowledge about the ancient Ayurvedic teaching, the ancient teachings of the Vedas, and how they might help us lead a richer, fuller, and healthier life. Welcome.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And just by a way of introduction, let me say that this great leader has created some wonderful books. As we start right out, I want you to take note of these books. The first one is Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom. Those of you studying our work on bone health might notice that my instructions for how to build healthy bones really are rooted in a great sense in the basic Ayurvedic principles. This book explains Ayurveda, really classic Ayurveda, to the Western world, and it's a wonderful opportunity, a step-by-step program of how to develop an Ayurvedic lifestyle. Then she wrote Sovereign Self, and this, of course, is a monumental discussion of the ancient sciences. It says the ancient sciences, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. These are the ancient texts, the sacred texts of ancient India, which I've always thought rather difficult to understand, but Acharya Shunya has made them understandable for the Western world and for the whole world. So if you want to take a deeper dive into this ancient science and how you can empower yourself to greater happiness, greater well-being, greater sovereignty, to see that you can become the mistress and the master of your own world and your own reality. That is a wonderful book. And the final book is Roar Like a Goddess. And actually, my team is down here studying the course with Shunya Ji about roaring like a goddess. And this is a unique female feminist perspective on the ancient archetypes of the divine goddess from ancient India. Every culture has archetypes of the divine goddess. This is a beautiful explanation of these goddesses and how we can understand the traits of the goddesses and bring them into our life to empower us. This is a very empowering and fun book because there certainly was goddesses of wisdom, but also goddesses of fun and enjoyment. And we're going to do both of that today. Thank you very much for being with us again.
It's a pleasure, Susan.
You know, I've been sort of really focused on bone health for a long time, and but one thing we noticed, we've developed a great program, as our listeners know, for the nutrition that helps bone, the exercise that helps bone, even the medical causes of bone loss. But one area that we struggle with, our tribe, our people struggle with, are the emotional, mental aspects. Like there's a lot of fear. When we're told we have a health problem, we get very fearful. And anxiety seems to be just a common trait that we sort of live with. I wonder what the ancient Ayurvedic perspectives might be on how we can come to calm down our nervous system and move away from fear and move away to a more settled, coherent state.
I think connecting the exploration of a fearless way to be is very important for bone health and for the health of the entire body, because if I may just take a minute to introduce the fact that Ayurveda introduces 5 elements, as you of course know and many of our listeners know, which are space, air, fire, water and earth. According to Ayurveda, earth is composed of air and space elements and earth. Like it has all 5, but these are the most dominant. And with age, as earth depletes, air and space increase.
Earth depletes with age.
Earth depletes with age, and naturally air and space increase. And the air element induces changeability.
Yes, and the anxiety.
And the anxiety. And the space element, if we don't bring spiritual contemplation, can make us feel empty, foundationless, broken and tired a lot. So it's very physiological, some of the emotions people go through, and it's understandable and probably we can address it. But I like how Ayurveda sheds light on this process.
Yes, that's very interesting. There's some material aspects to it, like this, the earth element, but then this air element, which we almost don't recognize really exists. I mean, from the Western world, that can be like excess motion, disruption, lack of stability, lack of...
And even some clusters of symptoms like insomnia,
Yes.
moodiness, changeability. And the air cannot be seen, but the air can be understood from the fact that almost all joints support motion, locomotion, that there are zones where nerves and muscles interact.
Yes.
So there's a lot of movement connected with bone. And when air is in balance, movement is in balance. But when air is imbalanced, even the movement of the joints becomes painful, compromised, questionable. And because body and mind are one, in Ayurveda, what's happening down here or in a joint is also happening here in the form of anxiety. And one emotion, Susan, that is significantly connected to air element is fear.
Because we see so much fear, and people get totally wrapped up in this fear that almost it consumes so much of their energy, so much of their time, that they don't have energy to build bone because they're so worried about everything. And the medical system, the way we treat bone health, we frighten people. We do this silly test that has 90% have errors, bone density. We say you have low bone density, you're probably going to fracture. And then it's off a cascade of
It's fear. Yeah, because as earth or the bone density goes down, the porosity increases, and now you have more air and space and everything becomes more brittle and snaps. However, this is the however. This is the part where what we can do is, we can of course follow your advice and consume some supplements that strengthen the bone. But there is a key that Ayurveda provides us. Ayurveda gives us the good news that while the prakriti or the constitution of the body changes slowly, and so if we want to change our porous bones into dense, strong, nourished bones, we take some supplements over a period of time. But the mental prakriti or the mental constitution, which is composed of feelings, thought, ideas, can change instantly. And that we don't have to be locked in a landscape of fear. And we could probably breathe through that fear or understand the fear or even offer this fear to the divine intelligence. And slowly, as we dissipate our fear through choice, through recognition, through understanding, because everything is connected, the bone health improves. So it's interesting that sometimes people with improved feelings have improved results.
Yes, yes, yes. We see that.
You see
When people
that.
start feeling
Okay.
better, when they feel more optimistic, when they feel uplifted, then their health problems correct. So you're saying that what's your good news is that we can switch our mental landscape and our emotional landscape fairly quickly, while bones might take a while to reconstruct strong bones. But our mental, our thought patterns we can correct.
And that this is not a mere placebo effect. You can really, and we can talk more about fear, but we can really find ways to work emotionally, intellectually through knowledge with fear, and then change the landscape of our skeletal system. We can change the landscape of a lot of different types of cells, not only the skeletal system, but we can change it. But more specifically, because fear is connected to bones, I'm not surprised when you say that as the bone health suffers, fear goes up. And while we are nourishing one, let's seize that fear. Some of it is physiological, some of it is existential, some of it is from habit, some of it is from society. But fear is ultimately a bunch of virtual energy, and you are not that energy, you are the observer of that energy. And so probably if you observe the fear and say, fear has gone up, let me look at the blue sky and see how the sky is not afraid. Let me look at Mother Earth and she is not afraid. And so soothe yourself back out of a spiral of fear.
Yes,
That's not going to be friendly to your bones.
And so one of the key suggestions you're making to us is that we create a little space between this, I'm having a feeling, but I'm not that feeling.
You said it right. This space.
I'm experiencing that. And in fact, one of the wonderful things in your book, Sovereign Self, is you really help us understand that we're not our mind, we're not our feelings, we are this sovereign being, and we can create a little distance. We don't need to be attached to our feelings. So I'm afraid the doctor scared me to death saying I was going to end up in a wheelchair. But I don't have to totally take that on and certainly see myself as weak and incapable, and to create that little bit of distance between this fleeting emotion, or this emotion, this feeling we have, and the ability to observe ourselves, to take a witness stand.
You said it beautifully. I couldn't explain it better. And that you could be having a storm of fear and panic and all of that, and still in the middle of it, I want to remind you that you are sovereign and you have agency. And you can come into that agency simply by deepening your breath at your belly level. Just remember that. And as we were talking, Susan, earlier, that every time you breathe, it's like the whole universe wants you to breathe. Like the whole universe is working for you. And that this fear is only a couple of clouds in your brain. And don't let them usurp the quality of your life and the quality of your health. It's really it's our dharma or our righteous duty to soothe our own being. Health is not just something we do on the side. It's an ongoing process of picking up some fear and saying, oh, there you come again. You may have come because I've depleted earth. You may be there for physiological reasons, for divine reasons, for some societal reasons, emotional reasons, but I can soothe you. I can breathe through this. I can create, as you said, some space between you and me. We can coexist and walk towards health. We can do that.
That's a great way to put it. We can coexist and walk toward
Yeah.
health. And one of the ways you explain it so eloquently in the Sovereign Self is that we can distinguish ourselves as pure being, as pure consciousness, and as the actor.
Yeah.
So the actor is, I as an actor am going through fear because I've been told this about whatever, my health, my bones, whatever. But to distinguish again that that's not my core being, that I'm a part of this abundant universe, independent of that. That's an energy that's passing through me.
And the actor was handed a couple of scripts by doctors in society to panic, but as an actor, you can change the script. And I'm a pure being, and at the pure being level, you can edit and audit the scripts that you want to run through your own mind, and being that you have agency, and we forget, and that agency comes from our spiritual nature, which is pure. And when it's pure, I'm not talking from a holy perspective. I'm speaking from a wholeness perspective. I'm speaking from a place of, like, it has no colors to hijack it permanently. And we can come back to this place. And when I said we can co-live with the fear, it's not like as a human being, Susan, you're 100% fear-free, and I'm 100% fear-free. But definitely we have a very comfortable, positive relationship with fear, where fear is part of our humanity, but it's not going to impact our destiny. There's a difference.
That is a really interesting distinction. It's such an eloquent distinction between the natural qualities of just being a human. We can feel great sometimes, we can feel low sometimes, we can feel the lower emotions like jealousy or anger, but those are just a part of a much broader landscape. And so maybe the wide person would think of which they want to focus on, what aspects of being human and being a human spiritual being that we want to focus on.
Absolutely. If we want the health of not only our bones, but our hair, our heart, our liver, because it's all connected, then I would say that we have to choose from the landscape of what do I want to hold on to and let it define the quality of my life on a daily basis, or what can I allow just to pass through. And so perhaps when the doctor says, you know, your bone density is critically low and you're a bomb waiting to explode and you're going to have a fracture down the road, it's going to bring you some fear. But then when you come to Dr. Susan, when you find some new solutions, and the universe is now telling you that, wait, got a problem? Here's a way to find a solution. Here's a way to open the door and find new things. Sometimes, Susan, problems are the beginning of a new opportunity. And you might not only walk away with good bone health with Susan, but with better emotional health. And that's what happens.
And you said such an interesting thing. Acharya gives many classes. In fact, if you go to awakenself.com, you'll find a variety of courses, and two of the most fascinating ones are coming up fairly soon, and one on sleep. So many of our people have sleep disturbances, but now we can begin to see it's a part of this whole imbalance of the elements, a lack of earth. So that will be really, really helpful. And one on the mental, you're also doing one on the mental situation, the emotions, which is what we find troubling so many of us. We may get the nutrition down, we may get the exercise down, but we're struggling with our mind and our thoughts. So I'm going to myself be doing that courses, and I encourage all of you to join up with those courses. That's a great opportunity. Yeah. So give us a little more, encourage us a bit more to take. It's so easy just to stay what we're doing, not to see the potential that we can really alter our present day reality. And one of the techniques, like you said, is to be aware. What am I going through? I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling anxiety. And then the breathing techniques are really helpful to bring us back to
Breathe back into the belly like a child.
like a child.
Yeah, deep exhale, deep inhale.
And maybe at the same time we might think, we might think that of the natural world, that everything is flowing, everything is working perfectly fine, to sort of.
That's a great visualization technique. Whenever we return to Mother Nature's fold and we see how we might be panicking, but the sun is on its time.
Yes,
The seasons are on time. The leaves are, sprouting. The flowers are blossoming. We can calm down and realize that there is a bigger reality. All is well.
We always say go out in nature, but the more profound level, when you go out in nature, you also appreciate the great order of nature and the fact that you take security in the fact that you're part of that great order.
You must. We shouldn't just walk listening to a podcast or, thinking about the same old relationships of fear that we're experiencing, but we should really contemplate our connection with nature and how that order, it's simply a matter of restoring order to our being by including more supplements of earth in our body or more earthy foods like nuts, etc., in our body, and things start coming back to balance.
But we're really interested in food, and I think Ayurveda is the highest science of nutrition, and I certainly see in my own life that the supplements make a big difference. But it seems to me like one of my great, like Deepak Chopra once said, nothing holds more power over the body than thoughts held in the mind. And so when we do that exercise, I think what Ayurveda always reminds me of is they had ability to observe nature, to really profoundly observe nature. Instead of we're not just in nature, we're observing all the majesty of nature. And if we can start to focus on that, and that same majesty and that same intelligence is within us, it's really interesting. We underestimate our own magnificence, which is a reflection of the divine order.
Beautiful. And to truly recognize the magnificence of our being, we have to go back to an ancient thought management technique, Susan, that was taught by my guru to me. I come from a 2,000-year-old lineage, and I come from a lineage of spiritual teachers. And a technique that has been passed on to me is to be able to think thoughts that restore that magnificence, because a lot of the time we think thoughts that diminish us and enhance the fear. So there are 5 types of thoughts, and we should be aware of them. 5 types. Okay. The first type of thought is the self-pitying, sorrow-causing, victimhood-generating thought.
We all recognize that, the self-pity thought, okay? That's number 1.
That's number 1. Then, to get out of that self-pity, we want to blame someone. God, destiny, the doctors, someone.
Right. So the second is blaming.
The blaming, angry thoughts. And these 2 thoughts, most of us stay stuck here, from sorrow to blame, where we feel more empowered, and then we fall back again to self-pity. So we stay stuck in this loop. So we are asked to now entertain the third kind of thought. And this thought is the thought that questions the reality of those thoughts.
Is it really true?
Is it really true? Is it really true that I am the biggest loser? Is it really true that that person is responsible for all my problems, including my osteoporosis example?
That's perfect. Okay, is it really true? That's the tough question to ask.
That's a tough question, but it needs space to think that. Yes. So it's a kind of thought on its own, and we should spend some time questioning and investigating our own inner landscape. Is this true? How real is this? Does it come up here or there? Does it come up when I'm happy, or does it only come up when I'm feeling bad? Yeah. So it's an investigative thought. Yes. And it loosens up those entrenched feelings of negativity, fear, panic, anger, blame.
Yes, and even if we loosen things up a bit, that gives us
a relief. It's a relief. In fact, if you can just dwell at the level of the third thought, many people will say, what happened to you?
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
know, you're a different person.
Yes, yes, yes. Is it really true when we get when we get going around with our thoughts of self-pity or blaming another? Is it really true?
Is it really true? And how much? And did I cook it up?
Yes, yes.
Am I holding on to it?
And these are part of the ancient teachings.
This is part of the ancient teachings. The fourth thought is these are self healing thoughts. These are in Sanskrit dharmic thoughts where you feel connected to the sun, the moon, as you were alluding to when you take a walk. Don't just take a mechanical walk. Connect with Mother Nature, connect with the breath. So you think soothing thoughts. We don't think that we're lazy about them, but you actually, if the sun is shining and it's early morning in the dawn, you have to think a thought to connect to it.
Yes, yes.
Otherwise, you and the sun are separate. If the wind is blowing beautifully, you have to think a thought to say, may this wind come in and blow through my being and soothe me. So then it will. So these are healing thoughts.
Well, and they're based in the reality that life is brought to us through the breath we breathe, and through the sun is all the energy from this whole planet. For every single cell comes from the sun. So we should bow down to the sun every morning and give gratitude for the.
I actually also call them reality thoughts, reality checking thoughts, where you say, does everybody hate me? No. Mother Earth loves me because she has brought me here.
Yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
reality checking
Yes.
thoughts. So indeed, they are based in the reality of Mother Nature. And the fifth kind of thoughts are sovereignty revealing thoughts, where you imagine that you are healing, you have healed, you are in service of the world, you are growing, you are expansive, you are in control, you have agency. So that's the next level. And so it's not like I won't have a single self-pity thought. Right. Sometimes we can have that. That's part of our humanity. But we don't stay there. We say, self-pity thought. Let me not now just go down that slippery slide. Right. And sometimes, Susan, people go there and never come back. They are in self-pity or anger or going back and forth. And that's where they stay.
Yes, I certainly recognize I at times dip down there, but it's very difficult. If you stay there, it's impossible to heal. It's impossible to heal.
For most healers, we don't stay there. We are visitors and we get uncomfortable with that landscape and we go, what's with self-pity? What's a reality checking thought here? I made a mistake. Life sucks, things are difficult, but I'll breathe myself and tomorrow's another day and I'll start again. Difficulties lead to opportunities, and so we make ourselves back into reality checking thoughts, self-healing thoughts, and sovereignty thoughts. And with these thoughts are connected our emotions. So when we are in self-pity thoughts, we are feeling dark emotions.
Every thought produces these
chemicals,
yeah.
which then cause more inflammation and more disturbance. When we are in angry thoughts, we have burning emotions of jealousy, irritability, frustration.
Right.
In reality checking, things start settling down.
And when we have thoughts of agency and sovereignty, when we realize that we're just sparks of this terribly orderly divine intelligence, then that creates other physiological manifestations.
And you may be knowing this better, but I've been reading that there is research that when we think these kind of thoughts, different brain centers start becoming activated and the happy chemicals start flooding the body.
The happy chemicals, yeah. And they all carry a message to when you become happy, we like to say every cell becomes happy. And what we've done, I'd like your opinion on this. What I've noticed through my work is that we only have really so much energy. There's two things I think we have in life. We have time, a certain amount of time we're given, and we have energy. But it seems to me that many of us are spending so much of our energy on worry, on fear, on these kind of disempowering emotions that we don't actually put energy into building bone. In fact, there's some research now about the bone building cells are they're the last one. I mean, it's like Mother Nature said, I'm going to give you enough bone to last forever. Even long after you die, your bones are going to be around. But the bones are sacrificed we waste our energy on worry, which damages bone, and it's very difficult to recover bone health unless we take care of our energy. We realize we're wasting our energy going into these lower emotions and dwelling in that cycle of pity or fear or blaming, to kind of snap out of that. And that's one thing the work of Shunya is, that she helps us see the larger landscape, and that we get stuck in this cycle of self-pity or blaming, and we waste our energy. Our energy is so precious, and every little cell wants a lot of energy, and we spend much of it in a whirlwind of negativity, really.
And it's so true. And you reminded me of the promise of Ayurveda that the strongest material in your body is the bone.
Yeah.
The strongest. But the one thing that can erode it, says Ayurveda, is negativity.
Isn't that striking?
So you honed in on the one fact that there is nothing gross can really break it apart, but subtle, constant wear and tear of negativity, of being stuck in self-pity or other blaming thoughts, being stuck in the story and getting up and lamenting upon it, finding a support group that supports you to be sad about it.
Yes. Okay, so we got that, but then help us again. So the step for many of us would be just becoming aware of our thought, aware of how we're feeling and the emotions and the thoughts we're having.
Just like we manage our clothes or our cars or our insurance, we have to manage our thoughts.
Yes.
We really have to become housekeepers of our thoughts, because an ancient Ayurvedic saying is that every thought leads to action, every action leads to habit, every habit leads to character, and the character leads to destiny. So that one single thought, don't give it room in your beautiful mind without purpose. You want to feel self-pity because you knocked your knee across the table and you're feeling sorry for yourself. Okay, but now breathe and move on. Or put a warm towel or a cold towel or whatever you need to do and heal it and move on.
Yes, and isn't that terrifically important if we're saying that one of the most debilitating thing you can do for bone is to entertain negativity and entertain negative thoughts, and whether it be negative thoughts about yourself or negative thoughts about your neighbor or negative thoughts of any brand. Is that true?
Absolutely. And we're not really saying, just to be clear, that if you have weak bones, it's because you think negatively.
Yeah.
The weak bones can happen because of the depletion of earth due to aging, and that's a natural process. But you can exacerbate and overly trigger that process, because fear comes up, but then you buy that fear, you buy into it, and you have some habits that now the negativity of your youth doesn't impact you as heavily as the negativity of your sunset years, because that, it's like glued to the bones. Yes. And the best way is to be in a positive community, positive thinking. Every day read books that uplift you, read Sovereign Self if you want to, do your thought management, because you have to be your own cheerleader. You have to be an ambassador for your own well-being.
You know, and one of this brings up one of the points in the class today. If you ever get the chance, take a class with Acharya Shunya. It's really amazing. But one of the things she mentioned is that the mind, by its very nature, tends to go down to lower emotions, lower thoughts, find things to criticize, find things to complain about. I never realized that's sort of, I see myself as doing it, but never thought that's the nature of the mind. And so we, like you say, to become the mistress of your own mind. In other words, the mind is a very poor master. You don't want to let the mind tell you what to do. You want to be aware of what your mind is doing, accept it, but then create the mastery over your mind, which means mastery over thoughts and intentions. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, give it the right atmosphere. And say people around you are toxic, then you create an atmosphere within your own life. You can meditate or take a walk or be part of an online or in-person community that uplifts you. Give it the right fuel and ingredients. Don't just give it more negativity to deal with the older negativity, because the mind on its own is at a loss what to do. You are the master of the mind or the mistress of the mind, and you have to show it the way.
You know, it's interesting, so interesting you say that, because like every morning I check out how I'm feeling. And if I'm not really buoyant, I say, I got to study, I got to read some of the important text, and certainly, or listen to uplifting things. And I love uplifting things that are also of wisdom, of cultures that actually observe the universe and were wisdom driven cultures. And that's certainly the Vedas and Ayurveda are one of the original wisdom driven cultures. But and so of all these many sources that you've given us, one could listen to. They could certainly start. I mean, where would so they'd read a little bit of this or a little bit of Roar like a goddess, or listen to a video or a meditation. What could our clients do to say, look, I got to get out of this thought pattern. I got to set my day, the intention for the day.
I think Sovereign Self is a book that you can begin reading and mark passages that uplift you, because you've read it and you can see it transforms the nature of your life forever, and you realize that a mind is a beautiful tool for you to use in the service of your own healing, not to worsen your condition. And that emotions come, but with a little bit of knowledge of your own agency, you need not suffer because of them, and you can transform gradually dark emotions. They'll inform you of your reality, and then you can move on to more positive, expansive, and even self-healing emotions like clarity, self-love, feeling content, feeling peaceful, feeling a desire to forgive the whole world because everybody's ignorant, you know. And when you have these thoughts raging through your being, you're healing yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. So a useful thing might be to take recourse to the wisdom traditions and spend a little time learning to observe, learning to distinguish between your sovereign self and your actor self. And this is what I really find interesting in the book. And there's a whole series of instructions step by step. So that's a great idea, to set the intention, set the vibration you want to be in that day, to take control. That's one simple thing we can do, right? Take control of our vibration every single day by being aware of what we're feeling. Create a little distance. Say, oh, I'm feeling sad about my sister or this or that. Say, okay, I'm going to breathe out of that. And then, but what's my intention? That she be very well, that she prosper, that I myself can accept whatever situation may come her way.
You think thoughts that your bones can hear. Okay. Think those thoughts that you're giving an idea about. And another thing you can do is this giant ball of yellow in the sky, full of positivity and happiness, the sun. Whatever time you wake up, go outside or walk up to a window where you can see the sun, open your arms wide and see the sun in your heart. That's going to give you such a blast of happiness and hope, and it's going to dispel the darkness within your being.
So first thing in the morning, we get up and we look for that sun, that source of every single particle of energy in our existence, and we open it up to our heart. We open our heart to that.
Yeah. And you can even talk to the sun in my worldview, where you talk to what is just a ball of gas, but we believe it's part of that great divine intelligent universe. And you can say, just like you're shining, let me shine. And it is said that wherever the sun rays fall, you know, diseases like rickets and other conditions, they get healed on their own. So you want to observe that early morning sunlight and really allow it to cheer you up, and forget some of that doom gloom story, because the more you hold on to it, the more it kind of dampens up your entire system.
Yes, there are so many things, so many ways we can begin to move towards a more positive and healthful life, seeing the unity of things and recognize that our own sovereignty to be able to distinguish the right path for us.
And sometimes, Susan, where roar like a goddess becomes important, there is someone we need to address in our life who is toxic or who's violating our boundaries, and that's bringing up fear. So might as well gather your power, your roaring power, because roaring is kind of akin to your authentic power. Gather up your roaring divine feminine power and have that conversation. Say your piece and reclaim your peace.
Yes, yes. And looking at
Yeah.
the archetypes of the goddesses
Yes.
is such a great way to do it, because the goddesses they had everything within them. They had every single aspect. So you pick on the power aspect, or
Yes.
the ability to speak your mind, or the ability to feel joy, or the
Yeah.
ability to
So that would be another book that helps people navigate difficult relationships. So rather than having these conversations in your head and making it so busy and full and toxic as a result, you know how we feel resentment for someone and we can't really say anything to them, but that resentment's eating us away.
Right.
It's better to be sovereign and to roar, and then to say to the person that I'd like to have a conversation with you. This may be hard, but I need you to know that when you do this, I don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've been supporting you this far till this level. I'm going to step back a few steps. It's healthy.
Yeah.
And roar teaches you how to have healthy boundaries and healthy conversations.
See, so if you've recognized boundaries as an issue, then roar like a goddess is a great way to a great step-by-step process to roar. We've been roaring here at this conference, and I do want to talk about Ayurveda, because many decades ago I got fascinated with this ancient science of health. It's the science of health of ancient India, and it is so profound. And I've always known it was the best science of nutrition, but it's somewhat complicated for us in this culture. I mean, but now I'm delighted to say this book, from everything from the basic principles to recipes, is really makes it very practical. And I want to give you gratitude. And this is what I'm going to be working on, because like many of you, I have an imbalance of a lack of earth, a little bit of lack of earth. And as we get older, then that something new I didn't know, that my earth element is declining, and this space element and this
air element.
Yeah, the air element, the tendency to anxiety, to worry, that it's really very important to rectify that before we get too far along in the aging process. So I'm going to take Ayurveda to heart, and we can have some chats. So those of you who want to, all my thin and worried tribe really want to follow the Ayurveda principle. And I suggest you start with looking at Ayurveda lifestyle, because it's an imbalance of earth and imbalance of the space element. And I myself am going to work on that, and I'm very grateful for the book. That book is also very wonderful.
And I'm hoping, Susan, that for all our thin and worried friends out there, you could also not only expose them to Ayurveda from this book, but from time to time principles of sovereignty and roaring from these books, so that we have this happy and healthy tribe under your care.
Yes, of course, because I go back to where we started, that our group is plagued with worry and anxiety, and so it encompasses the whole mental scape, spiritual scape, emotional scape, nutritional, physical landscape, all of it. And the one science that does bring this all together is, of course, Ayurveda. And it's only been a few thousand years. The Acharya's lineage has been doing this, and Ayurveda is actually these ancient sciences. As an anthropologist, I'm so intrigued by them. May we all take benefit.
Thank you.
So, is there any last thing you would like to tell, or a little last suggestion? We know the path. We have to do the work. There's no excuse. We can't be blaming others. We just have to do the work and deal with our mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. Is there any closing comment that might be solace, energize us for the trip?
Absolutely. I actually wanted to share with you that since we are talking about Ayurveda, Ayurveda has a principle, and I'm going to say its name, and it's a little bit of a tongue twister in Sanskrit, but please bear with me, and it means Swabhavo Param Vad, and Swabhava means your inner healthy nature. And what Ayurveda wants to tell us is, no matter how sick we are, no matter how unhappy we are, when we bring a little bit of knowledge-based TLC, a little bit of care to our mind and to our body, the natural self-healing tendencies of the body take over, and you do become better. And this is the beauty of Ayurveda, that it wants to tell us that do the work
Yes, yes.
and trust the journey. And it's not like the final goal that you should keep in mind, but the journey itself will be so playful and fun. When you start doing your mental housekeeping, you'll come into a power that's a good place to be at. You can enjoy all your emotions but not be pulled down by any. And then the work you are doing to heal your bones, it's begin to show in your body, because negative emotions are not coming in the way.
Yes.
So there is hope, and I have incredible faith that with this kind of holistic approach with Dr. Susan, you can only get better, more and more better every day.
And may that be so for all of us. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us. I encourage everyone to look at awakenself.com. Look at the many books. Take the opportunity, seize the opportunity in this life to progress, to develop physically, spiritually, and emotionally for greater joy and happiness. Thank you again. Wow. I hope that you enjoyed that interview even a fraction as much as I enjoyed doing it. It was an amazing experience for me, and I hope that you learned a lot. Feel free to see it again. Feel free to look at the books of Acharya Shunya. This is Roar Like a Goddess. She often gives this course. I know at Kirpalo she gave it in Omega. It's a wonderful, enlivening course to get in touch with the true goddess power within you. Her book on Ayurvedic medicine, if this interview has piqued your interest in Ayurveda, this several thousand-year-old, one of the first medical systems in the cosmos, or in the universe as we know it, Ayurveda, this is a very acclaimed book, The True Deal on Ayurveda. And then, of course, there is Sovereign Self. If the spiritual aspects of what we talked about in this interview are of interest to you, get the Sovereign Self book. Acharya offers a 12-week course on identifying your sovereign self, working with that soul, that spirit within you to empower yourself in every facet of your life. I took that course online. I would certainly take it again. She herself gives that course, and if enough of you are interested in that, I think we could ask her if she would give us that course for the Better Bones Tribe, so we could each take a deep dive into personal empowerment through this ancient knowledge of the Vedas. It's really quite outstanding how we learn to be, that we're not our bodies and we're not our minds. We're an invincible spirit, and how to work with that spirit. As all of you know, here at the Center for Better Bones, it has been my life's work to develop a 6-step program to maximize bone health naturally. This work we did with Acharya, this just is amplifying the fifth step, which is reducing stress and creating resilience. We're going to be paying a lot of attention to that step in the coming year, because I see such a strong link between emotions, between thoughts, between attitudes, and our bone health. So have fun with all of this. Let me know what you think, and we'll keep moving forward to build better bones and a better body totally for everyone.